Now, SA Tourism's controversial Tottenham Hotspur deal is almost but over. This after Minister Patricia De Lille advised the tourism board to cancel the deal. She says upon legal advice, the deal was found to be unlawful and invalid. What's the reaction from London? Well, we're joined by our correspondent there, Julia Chapman. Julia, thank you very much for joining us and for your patience earlier. Just firstly, are you hearing this for the first time through us, or did our government at least let Tottenham Hotspurs know that this might not happen?
Most of the news has been coming from the South African side. Tottenham Hotspur hasn't commented and said it doesn't comment on commercial deals, and that has been their line throughout the last month or so as this deal has been discussed increasingly in the South African media and among South African officials. But we do understand now from the tourism minister that she has recommended that the deal be cancelled. She also said that her understanding was that it was still in the proposal stages, that no deal had yet been inked, but she has written to SA Tourism to confirm that and is expecting an answer sometime next week. But she did say, as you mentioned, that this deal, having looked at it in detail, was unlawful and invalid. She said that was because it effectively amounted to a procurement and it needed to go through the proper budgeting procedures as such, approval by the South African Tourism Ministry, as well as the proper budget approval internally. So certainly she said she needed to give her final approval. It was not one that she was willing to give. And so this does look like one of the final nails in the coffin for this sponsorship deal, which of course amounted to 1 billion rand and would have given South Africa tourism extensive promotion at this Premier League club here in London, which broadcasts, of course, around the world.
And that's quite true, Julia. You say that they will not comment on any commercial deal, but I wonder if, this was just, from their side at least, was this not something that they could potentially take us to court about? Or are they okay with the deal just, stopping and not happening at all?
Well, we simply don't know what stage the deal had reached, so it's unclear whether there would be any kind of breach of contract, and Tottenham remains incredibly tight-lipped about that. They do, of course, have other sponsorship deals. This was expected to replace one with an online car sales platform to put the South African tourism brand on the shirt sleeves of the players at Spurs, as well as advertising around the stadium more widely. The details still had yet to be worked out, but that was what the understanding was. Inevitably, this would have amounted to quite a large amount of sponsorship for Spurs, and one that they will inevitably now looks like they will be losing. They will be looking for alternatives, but we have no information as to what the discussions have been behind closed doors between Tottenham Hotspur and SA Tourism.
All right, lastly, Julia, does this at all have the potential of, putting some dent on our relations with the UK, or, besides just Tottenham Hotspur? I mean, at some point we saw visuals of the acting CEO of SA Tourism posting that he's gotten a deal, idea from Manchester United as well. So does this have the potential of putting a bad spell on our relations with football clubs in the UK?
It certainly might make things more difficult going forward for SA Tourism to make other similar deals, knowing that this one came so close to being achieved and then reaching collapse. It may cause some reputational damage, but inevitably it's likely to be more or less contained to this particular arena. Of course, the reasons behind this deal, according to SA Tourism, was to provide a much-needed post-COVID boost for South African tourism, the UK being a really major market. UK tourists account for a huge amount of tourism into South Africa, and one that the country was hoping to get a major boost from now that the pandemic has more or less come to an end. But of course, this wasn't just contained to the United Kingdom. This would have allowed South Africa's name to be broadcast around the world with Premier League sponsorship deals and broadcast deals in many, many different countries, not just here. So it would have been a very very wide-reaching deal, but certainly one now that does look like it is coming to a conclusion, and it may be difficult to replicate that with other sponsors as well.
Julia, thank you very much for speaking to us. That was our UK correspondent, Julia Chapman.